Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, when you think about the A's and Las Vegas, it really is nothing new. I mean, for more than 2 years now, team officials have been making documented trips to Southern Nevada, and it's been very obvious that relocation potentially was very much on their radar. So none of this really comes as a surprise. But that being established, now that we're at this ultimate point and junction of maybe being right around the corner from a reality of relocation, it has become a bit surreal. Like the fact that we're here, how we got here, and quite honestly, some of the crazy elements at play. That's the topic of this video. But just to square it away, for those of you who are just like me, the A's have existed in Oakland all my life. First baseball game I ever went to, 1 year old, in 1982. I know nothing different than the green and gold at the Coliseum. And again, we could officially be weeks, if not maybe months away from the A's not existing in Oakland. But I digress. I go back to how crazy some of the elements at hand have been here. The way things have played out, what could lie ahead if things go as scheduled or as planned. This is all about the absolute craziest parts. Not even the surreal parts, but just the crazy aspects at play with the A's pursuing Las Vegas. Let's begin with this. 50 plus years of A's baseball in Oakland is literally in the hands of 63 Nevada lawmakers in Carson City. The Nevada State Legislature, along with Carson City, and Clark County, are going to make this ultimate decision. It really comes down to this for the A's in Las Vegas. If the public money is approved, the Major League Baseball owners are definitely going to sign off on it, and it's a done deal. Shovel can go in the ground probably in 2024. All of this literally hinges on 63 Nevada lawmakers, 21 from the state Senate, 42 from the state assembly, and I guess maybe an additional member, obviously Governor Joe Lombardo, part of this process too. Politics are involved. You can see the mix of Democratic and Republican representatives. There's also a state budget in Nevada, which is very controversial right now. The governor and the Senate and the Assembly are all a little bit at odds, and there has been a threat that if the state budget can't be passed by the end of the regular session on June 5th, that nothing else will be considered in a special session by the Democratic side of it. So there's a lot more than just the stadium topic at hand right now. And there's also this. I mean, the public is going to give their input. In fact, a little bit later on in this video, you'll see a very early projection of almost 400 responses that very much do not favor SB 509. Again, more on that in just a second. But the difference between how the public feels about this versus what the lawmakers actually do. This is not really in the public's hand. They'll have a say in it, I suppose, to a certain degree. But those 63 lawmakers are going to do what they're going to do. And the fate of people's traditions and rituals and their jobs and careers here in Oakland and in the East Bay, working around the A's or going to games or having that be part of who you are, that's all literally in the hands of 63 lawmakers who operate in Carson City, Nevada right now, the state's capital. Simple as that. Okay, here's something else that's been crazy. The way this was all proposed by the A's to the state of Nevada. Obviously, they had to make the official request, the ask for about $380 million of public funding to help build a $1.5 billion ballpark. And that is SB 509. That is the official ask and the language that would allow all of this to take place if approved. It had to be presented by yesterday, May 26th. That was the deadline. Oh yeah, that was also the day that we first ever saw any renderings for the Tropicana hotel site. And maybe not the most accurate renderings ever in terms of size and scale and other amenities that were not depicted, but I digress. Yesterday was the last day that you could present anything new during this legislative session. The A's waited until the last day. In fact, they did this at around 8:30 p.m. is when it was introduced and officially titled SB 509. An 11th hour proposal, and what's going to turn into kind of an 11th hour decision. I mentioned before that the regular session of the Nevada legislature, it ends on June 5th. Will this be decided in the next week and change or not? Or does it go to a special session? Tabitha Mueller, by the way, does a great job covering a lot of different governmental aspects. Is that a word? Governmental aspects of Nevada. She doesn't really cover sports, but government is her thing. She works for The Independent, which has been a tremendous resource and publication this entire time. They've been out front of stories. They've been breaking all the stories, and usually they've been quite accurate in retrospect. Tabitha and Howard are two people I can count on. But here's what Tabitha said on Twitter to try and describe the late nature of this. And by the way, she's also somebody who can present this as saying it's not totally abnormal, the 11th hour proposal, but here's what she did say about it. Usually a bill receives its first hearing and then requires a work session and committee vote agendized for a later day. But time pressures during the session's final days, these final days, means committees can waive rules and vote to advance the bill on a shorter timeline if necessary. I thought you might want to know that. She goes on later on this thread, which I urge you to check out on Twitter. If committee members vote a bill out of committee, it would go to the Senate floor for a vote. If passed by the Senate, the bill would go to the Assembly, where the entire process would repeat before hitting Governor Joe Lombardo's desk for a signature. So again, a lot of twists and turns here, but you can see how something is fast-tracked a little bit more easy when it's at the end of the legislative session and they're just trying to sort things out. Maybe that benefits the project, SB 509, and the A's potential funding for a stadium, or maybe it goes against it. Like, nope, this was too rushed. We can't make a decision on this timeline. I don't know how it plays out for or against. I just know that it is an element that has been crazy about this. I mean, technically, all of this could have been pitched 3 weeks ago, a month ago. This legislative session started in February and ends on June 5th. And we're here in the final days of May. And that's when it all came to light. Yeah, like an almost $400 million commitment has come in the final days, and now they've got to make a decision on it. So, pretty crazy. Here's another one that's crazy to me. Like, when you really sit down and think about this, beyond budgets and money, and I guess location is a part of this, but how about bringing in 81 times a summer, 30,000 fans? Potentially, hypothetically, 30,000 fans. You're going to bring them in to what is already the biggest intersection in the world. I kid you not. The corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard, that intersection has its own Wikipedia page. Yeah. I screenshotted this from the intersection's Wikipedia page. Let's just read it together. The Tropicana Las Vegas Boulevard intersection on the Las Vegas Strip is noteworthy for several reasons. It was the first intersection in Las Vegas completely closed to street-level pedestrian traffic, and its four corners are home to four major resorts: Excalibur, Tropicana, which you can see I've clicked on there, New York, and MGM Grand Las Vegas. The latter, right, the latter of those four, has 5,044 rooms and was once the largest hotel in the world. The resorts at the four corners have a total of 12,536 hotel rooms as of 2016. Now, I don't think they've added much since then, but it gives you impressive perspective. The chairperson of Bally's, I think, said that's the most hotel rooms on any single street corner in the world, and I believe it. Makes sense. Tropicana Avenue is also the main local street, and this is important, into Harry Reid International Airport, and the first major exit from I-15 to the Strip for traffic heading north from Los Angeles and San Diego areas. The heavy local traffic on Las Vegas Boulevard, which is listed as a National Scenic Byway All-American Road, further adds to the number of vehicles in the area, making the intersection one of the busiest in the nation. So let me just pose a thought here for a second. What if I told you that the Yankees wanted to build a new stadium at Times Square? Seem like a great idea? I mean, you could see what might go against that. Get people in and out of Times Square. And then let's also put LaGuardia Airport a couple blocks away from Times Square. The airport, I mean, the busy intersection is a part of it. Now, granted, a busy intersection is what you might want if you're operating a casino or a ballpark. You want to get people there, and they're already there. But the choke point that this already is for the airports and people making that right turn onto the Strip to go to their respective resort or wherever they're staying or whatever they're doing, that's already a huge traffic issue and scenario. And what do you think 30,000 fans all at once coming in and all at once leaving is going to do? And that's just the craziest part to me. When I first saw the Wild Wild West casino site, all right, yeah, I mean, busy area, but it's not the Strip. I guess that makes a little bit more sense. The Rio site, also off the Strip. You know, and now that I further understand the scenario here, I'll be honest, I was somebody who a year ago, I thought, well, if the A's are going to go to Las Vegas, right, you got to be on the Strip. If you're going to build a ballpark in Oakland, it's got to be on the waterfront. You want to go where you're finding your forever home. And I was always under that impression that, yeah, you got to be on the Strip. But as I heard from locals and listened to their input and the reality that locals sometimes completely avoid the Strip, and you think that 70% of your fans are going to come as locals and go into that? And how about people from the airport trying to get into Las Vegas and go to their conventions and do whatever else they came to do? I know they're going to study this. And forget money for just a second. How about this being considered? Like, I mean, we talk about the 9 acres not even being enough for a retractable roof site. That's another issue. I'll put that aside. But how about this one? Does this concern anybody? You going to make sure this gets figured out? I mean, that is an interesting one. How about a question of who has actually been a champion of relocation to Las Vegas? That's the governor, Joe Lombardo. He's brand new in his first term, was just brought into office back in January after the prior November elections. I mean, he's been a champion of this. So when I say, well, nobody has, that's not true. He's a champion of it. Members of the A's ownership are champions of it. But where's the group and where's the even individuals who are prominent on social platforms or are relevant in the news? Like, who's the champion of bringing the A's to Las Vegas? Who's the person that's just spitting out facts and fire and can't be wrong or can't be doubted and is just a huge successful proponent? Who is that person or that group? That's the craziest part. Like, if the A's got lured into Salt Lake City, I know there's a group there that works hard, that can promote and diligently work to bring a team there. Or Orlando, or like Nashville, what Dave Stewart is doing and trying to get an expansion team in Nashville. Those are organized efforts. What is the organized effort in Las Vegas, either individually or collectively? If there is one, I haven't seen it. And by the way, that leads me to showing you the initial public opinions submitted on SB 509. That's the language that's going to try and get the A's $380 million of public money. I mean, look at 90% in the red opposing this to 9% supporting it. Now, look, it's early, and this is all online, and I don't know the legitimacy of it, but it did have almost 400 responses up to this point. And I believe you do. I think you do have to put in a name and an address and an email and confirm a few things to actually give legitimate opinion here. But I mean, even if it's not 90, even if it's 70% or 60% no, this is the public opinion. People in Nevada have this opinion. I know the A's put out their own survey, their own paid survey, which was dated a while and done via text message. And yeah, this one is also done online too, not actually in person. But here is the initial public opinion on SB 509. Again, public opinion may not matter in the ultimate legislative vote, but who is the champion of relocating to Las Vegas? Where are all the opinion pieces that say why this is such a good idea? I can find plenty that go against it, and maybe that's the algorithm feeding my appetite. I've literally tried to find the proponents of this, and I can't really do it. And I guess the last comment here of the most craziest things and what's going on is not actually looking back or even in the present. It's looking ahead. If all of this gets approved and Las Vegas signs off on it, Clark County signs off on the bonds aspect of it, the state of Nevada is in for the transferable tax credits. Let's say that the A's play one more season like at the Coliseum in 2024. how messy is that going to be for a full baseball season, knowing the inevitable future that they're gone? Or, I see what you're looking at right there. You're like, wait, isn't that the old Raleigh Field? I think it's now called Sutter Health Field in Sacramento. It's where the River Cats played, the Giants AAA affiliate, the old A's AAA affiliate. I mean, there was initially talk about the A's playing the 25 and 26 seasons at Las Vegas Ballpark where the Aviators play, but let's be honest, it is super hot down there. They'd have to change the field out into being artificial grass. They'd have to put in new clubhouses. They'd have to raise the lights to MLB standards. Like, there is so much work to make that happen. It was floated out there, and I believe it was the mayor of Sacramento said that he's actually been in some loose talks about maybe the A's finding a temporary home in our state's capital for 25 and 26. And if it happens, I mean, how awkward would that be? Here you go, Sacramento. Here's kind of a tryout to be a Major League Baseball team, but you're not actually getting a team. And also, what's the draw going to be like? What's the crowd going to be like? Would anybody care that this is going to exist for 2 years and then go away? And look, I actually think from the aspect of Las Vegas, Sacramento might be a better option for 2 years. You really don't want to bring in your new toy before it's fully assembled yet. Do you really want the A's playing games in Las Vegas before they get to go, debut at a brand new $1.5 billion stadium? Isn't that kind of like maybe opening or peeking and looking at what's inside the wrapping of a present before you actually open it? It kind of ruins the actual opening of it. And that's a new realization for me, that maybe, getting out of Oakland and going to Las Vegas ASAP, maybe that's not in their best interest. Maybe a stop like Sacramento is. But I digress. The bigger point here is, how messy is a team going to be? And then you got to convince players that, we'll be fine. We're going to temporarily play in Sacramento. So even though you're on a 4-year contract, which I don't think anybody will be, find a new home in Sacramento and then find a new home in Las Vegas 2 years after that. It gets really messy from the player standpoint, the employee standpoint, the fan standpoint. This would not be the easiest transition in the world. That's a crazy aspect to me. So look, all of this surreal. I wake up in the morning sometimes and I have to pinch myself like, yeah, is this really happening? No, it very much is. And some very tangible things could be right around the corner. But surreal and crazy, I think, are two different things, and that's been the point of this video. Which, by the way, you made it here all the way to the end of. Thumbs up for that. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that I can definitely see you next time.